And now on Hometown Radio 1580 KGAF, it's time for Hometown Community Service. Here is Dee Blanton.
Thanks very much. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to our community service program on this Thursday. Very happy today to be starting a brand new monthly feature from Munster Memorial Hospital. This will be airing on the second Thursday of each month. And we start off today by talking to someone who is fairly new to Munster Memorial Hospital. We're talking about the CEO, Brian Roland. Welcome to the show.
I am very excited to be here. Very excited.
Great to have you here. Great to finally meet you. As many people know, my wife Gayla works at Munster Memorial, and Brian, you've been here since, I guess, last summer sometime, and I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, but it's great to meet you. Let's find out a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been in healthcare for a little over 24 years. Started out kind of on a whim in a nursing home as a business office director, and then just kind of fell in love with it and just kept going. Worked in all kind of different locations, different type of hospitals, ambulatory surgery, long-term care, big hospitals, small hospitals, you name it. I've pretty much been there.
Yeah. What are some of the major changes you've seen in healthcare over those 20 plus years?
Well, I think one of the big things is healthcare used to be somewhat simpler. It used to be more about the patient and not about the regulatory pieces and the paperwork that went along with it. I think right now, while patient care and quality is a very important part of healthcare, I think a big piece of it is the paperwork that has to go along with it. You have to dot all the I's just right and cross all the T's. If you don't, you have issues with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face today is not just it's smaller about the patient and more about the regulations and the paperwork than it is the actual healthcare itself.
See, it just shouldn't be that way. Let me just make an editorial comment there. It should not be that way, but it is, and the reason it is important that you do get it right is that all of that says whether or not you get reimbursed and how you get reimbursed.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it. And one of the biggest challenges I think we faced over the last 20 years is everything used to be on paper, and it used to be simpler on paper, but somebody had the bright idea that, hey, if we computerize all this stuff, eventually it will be as simple as paper. The problem is nobody really thought through all the steps that you had to go through. So when you started with the billing going electronic, and now the electronic medical records, somebody somewhere at one point back in 2004 said, hey, you know what? If we go to electronic medical records, life is going to be simpler. But they never said simpler for who.
Right.
And obviously it's not the doctor, it's not the person trying to put in the electronic medical record, and it's not the person that's trying to, at least right now, extrapolate that information out of a system.
Yeah, it seems to me if they could figure out a way to make that simpler on everybody, and I don't know what it is or if it exists, but if they could do that, it would definitely make it much, much easier on everybody, and that includes not only the hospital, but the physicians and all the other offices that are tied in.
My expectation is somebody will figure that out the day after I retire, with my luck. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
All right, let's talk about the hospital specifically, Munster Memorial, great little small-town hospital, and I know you've got several goals for the hospital in the coming months and years. Talk about those.
Well, I want to start with one thing that I'm really, really excited about is all of my employees will be back to work today, since none of them won the lottery.
Yeah, that's a positive.
Sorry for them, but great for our facility and the people in our town, because one of the biggest benefits of Munster Memorial Hospital is the people that we have working there. Our staff are second to none. People really need to understand that as we move forward, our staff are trained just like everyone else. Doesn't matter if you're in a large hospital or a small hospital, you are trained exactly the same. So as we move forward into 2016, 17, and 18, and you have to look that far ahead in healthcare today, because if you're just looking at 2016, which we have a lot of things that we're looking at, where we want to make sure that we focus on what systems we have at our facility now that we can potentially really start pushing more, like our cardiac program and things along those lines. But then also as we look at 2017, 18, and even into 2020, what we start building on now, obviously from a CEO standpoint, you're looking at, do I have the best people working in our facility, which I think we do? Is our facility up to par for where it needs to be to take care of the patients we want to take care of. And I think we are. We hopefully will be doing some renovations to the rooms, completing those projects in 2016. And then what services do we actually need in Munster? Because if we're going to have the mindset, why go anywhere else? And we can really do anything those big hospitals can do within the scope of our service. What are those services that we need? Obviously, we're looking for a physician. That search has been going on. We want to find the right doctor, the right fit for our community. As we look at the systems that we have, our surgical procedures, can we expand on some of those? Making sure that our billing and collections are being done timely and correct, making sure that the internal processes that we have in place. That's one of the interesting things that I think a lot of people don't understand is even if you're in a small or a rural facility, you still have to follow the same policies and procedures, the same regulations as a Parkland, as a UT Southwestern, as some of these bigger ones. And I just think that getting everybody to understand that is really, really important.
Yeah, I guess identifying what services you should be offering, I guess evaluating the ones you are offering, and then figuring out how to market those to the public to bring those people in. Those have got to be really key right now for you.
They really are. I mean, with the tools that we currently have, with the systems that we have, with what we offer now, with the home health, with our clinic, with not just the swing bed program, but the acute care, the ER, the surgical procedures that we can do, how do we truly capitalize as we prepare for this coordinated care that's going to be happening in 2020 and 2022 with Medicare and the capitation systems that they're going to be pushing us to, and what services can we keep encompassed within Munster to benefit not only the hospital but the people that utilize our facility.
And you referred to physician recruitment, and that is something that really doesn't get any easier over time, I know, especially in a small hospital, small community setting. Has the change in rules made it a little easier, though, in the fact that you can now go out and actually hire a physician now, where used to you couldn't do that?
It does. With the changes that happened in 2011, where you can employ your own physician, it does give you a lot more tools, because a lot of them don't want to be that standalone contracted person. They want to be part of the organization, be on your payroll, and which is actually better for a small facility like us, because then there's a lot of times there's a lot more buy-in. There's a lot more seriousness to what they're looking for, because you're hoping, and I think they're hoping that long-term fit will actually work better, because they're not considered a contracted employee. You still have all of the interesting things that happen with looking for a physician. It's like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah.
Not only are you pinpointing specific needs that you need, or that you want, but how do you get that specific person that is the right fit for your community? Because as you whittle away this big chip and get these smaller pieces, trying to find those people even become a bigger challenge.
Yeah, I can only imagine how tough that is, but hopefully things will be able to go your way in that here in the next, hopefully soon, because I know you'd like to get another physician in as quickly as you can.
Definitely.
All right, we got about a minute and a half left. Talk about any other goals immediately that you'd like to see accomplished.
Well, I think what we need to do is work very, very stringently on being proactive instead of reactive in healthcare, especially in Munster and the smaller rural facilities. Because if you're reactive all the time, you will always be 2 steps behind what you need to do. And so I think that's one of the biggest challenges we face, because healthcare is ever changing. Every day you listen to something, or with the climate that's going to be changing with the presidential changes that happen. Anytime you have an election in the state of Texas, your governor, all of the legislative stuff that happens. 2016 will be a slower year when you deal with legislative stuff, but you start ramping up for what's going to be happening in the next 5 years. That is the great thing about healthcare. It is ever changing. And if you love a challenge, if you love change, healthcare is the place to be.
And I think we might add in closing, and I'll get your comment on this, small market healthcare, small town, small community healthcare, and especially in the hospital business, is very tough these days, isn't it?
It is becoming tougher and tougher. However, if you build it right, they will come. And that's what we need to make sure that we do.
Excellent, excellent. Brian, appreciate it. Great to meet you again. Look forward to this show on the second Thursday of each month, and I hope you're a frequent guest.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. He is Brian Roland, the CEO at Munster Memorial Hospital. That's going to wrap it up for our Thursday community service here on Hometown Radio 1580 KGAF.